Hello everyone and welcome to this video. So in this video I'm going to be talking about why so many people are leaving Canada and why that's actually a good thing, because people are waking up and realizing what is going on in Canada. So as many of you probably know, a lot of people are planning to leave Canada or want to leave Canada or have already left Canada. And the reality is, the question that a lot of people should be asking themselves is, why are so many people planning to leave Canada? And why is the government importing so many immigrants as a response to that, instead of actually fixing the issues? So one of the biggest things that people often say, the reason why they're leaving, is the lack of affordability in Canada. Canada is extremely expensive, and it's extremely expensive when it comes to housing. You know, a lot of countries look at Canada and they say, well, the housing prices, they're not too bad when they're coming from Australia or New Zealand, for instance. But what they forget is, in Canada, the wages are a lot lower. And you've just got to think that people, they want a couple of things when it comes to life. They don't ask for a lot. They're asking for shelter, they're asking for food, and they're asking for a little bit of money so that they can spend and enjoy themselves in the economy. But the reality is, there's no peace of mind when it comes to that shelter component. In fact, a lot of people are just giving up. They're saying, I'm never going to be able to own in this country, and they think it's a disaster that they can't own in this country. Well, in Canada, I should say. I'm not in Canada. The funny thing about this whole situation is, the Canadian government's response to this has been absolutely nothing. I mean, they have tried numerous attempts to basically make housing more affordable, and it's actually done the opposite, or had no effect at all. So the reality is, the Canadian government hasn't done anything when it comes to housing, and they're never going to do anything, because there is so much of a push from the real estate industry. The real estate industry has become so large that their lobbying efforts stop the Canadian government from doing anything substantial. And even you've managed to see this with the foreign buyer ban and the recent amendments to that foreign buyer ban. Now, I was skeptical. I didn't think the foreign buyer ban would do anything, but it was interesting to see the Canadian Builders Association was able to lobby the government to get different changes in that push through. And it just goes to show how corrupt the Canadian government is, and this is something that is never going to change. You see, Canada looks down its nose at other countries like Mexico, where I'm at right now, and they say that those are the corrupt countries, those are the dangerous countries, when in reality Canada is actually no better than places like Mexico. The corruption and the crime is rife within Canada, and it's also increasing rapidly. Another reason why people are looking to leave Canada is healthcare, and this is one of the reasons that we're leaving Canada, is because healthcare is just very poor in Canada. The services that you get are just very, very bad. The long wait times for surgeries, the lack of available doctors, the lack of available nurses, they're all massive problems for Canada. And really, Canada is facing a massive problem where there is a surplus of unskilled workers in the country, and there is a complete lack when it comes to skilled workers in the country. The problem with this is, it means you have massive skills shortages in areas where those unskilled people need the services, such as healthcare. And you know, those structural shortages aren't going to get any better, because a lot of different Canadian doctors and nurses are seeing the light, and they're moving as well, because they know that they can make more money down in the US. They can sometimes make 2 or 3x what they're making in Canada, and in Canada they might not even be able to necessarily afford a house. I've heard many stories of doctors in BC and in the Vancouver area who can't even afford to buy a townhouse. Now, that is just absolutely insane. When you have a doctor that has spent the countless years going through medical school, has learned a really big skill that is so important to society, and they can't even afford a townhouse, not even an actual detached property. I mean, that just goes to show the insanity of what's going on in Canada. And really, it's just because Canada has sold itself out. You know, a lot of people watch this channel and they think that I'm negative and that I'm all doom and gloom. But the reality is, that may be the case when it comes to Canada, but when it actually comes to other countries, not at all. I actually think there are going to be some bright spots in the global economy, some places that are going to benefit off the West's basically demise, which is going to happen slowly. It's not going to be a very straightforward and quick event at all. It's going to happen over possibly decades, but it's going to happen in my lifetime, and positioning myself in a way to benefit from that is something that I should do, and we should all do if we're conscious of what's going on around us. The reality is, guys, I've lived in different places in Canada, I've traveled across the whole country, and the same problems just repeat across the entire country. It doesn't matter where you move. There are some places that those problems are a little bit less, but they're on the whole very, very large problems, such as the housing affordability and the healthcare issues. And those are two of the main reasons why people are deciding to leave Canada. They're just sick of that. And quite frankly, nothing has been done about it. It's been over a decade now since housing prices went parabolic in Canada. Quite frankly, people are sick to death of it. And if they're renting as well, rents have gone up substantially as well. They haven't gone up to the tune housing prices have gone up, but they've certainly shot up as well. And that's just hurting people financially, and it means that they can't even afford to save for a down payment. And the thing is, I'm not necessarily a person, I don't believe that people need to own a home. I know a lot of people think that they need to own a home because they're looking at their parents and they're saying, wow, look, my parents bought and they benefited from globalization essentially, which was unintentional, but they just bought at the right place, right time. Especially the millennials right now, because their parents bought at that really great time and housing prices just ripped higher as a result of globalization and many other different factors. They now think that they should do the same, and it's going to be the only way that they're going to build wealth and become prosperous. And I think that is utterly ridiculous. I mean, the fact is, you don't have to own a property in Canada. I mean, for instance, I'm exploring all different markets to buy an investment property because that's something that we want to do to diversify our portfolio more. And we're not looking at doing that in Canada. We're looking at doing that in possibly the United States, possibly Mexico, some Central American countries. We're really just exploring it right now because there's going to be a global recession and there's going to be a lot of opportunity that come with that. The flip side to that is also stock portfolios, bond portfolios. You know, these are all things that people can invest in and they can build a portfolio in. It doesn't have to be that just because they can't buy a house, that is the end of the world. And I think a lot of the parents that also lend money and help out these people with down payment money, they put conditions on it, like you must spend that on buying a home for yourself, instead of actually getting in touch with a financial advisor, creating a diversified portfolio that could actually pay you on a quarterly basis. I mean, it's just insane. Whereas a home will actually just take from you, because most people who are homeowners are the ultimate consumers, and that's why the government is so driven to get people into debt, to get people to home ownership. It's because they know it's a good driver of economic growth, because you get the endless consumer. A renter isn't going to be constantly painting, constantly doing remodeling and all these different things that a homeowner does, and that contributes a large amount to the economies in places like Canada, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, the United States. Those are big drivers. So the thing is, I'm actually starting to get optimistic now about the future. And I know that's kind of crazy, isn't it? Because right now it seems like we're in this time of fear and global instability, and I do think that will continue, and I actually believe things will get worse, but I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel as we get further and further into this, and I'm starting to see where opportunities are going to present themselves as well. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, leave me a comment below. I would love to hear from you. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves, guys. Bye bye.